welcome to my room, or as my family used to call it when I lived with them, the pit of despair. I quit social media for a month, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I've been in the social media mindset since I was a kid. I grew up playing Neopets, a space with customizable profiles and message boards. In 6th grade, I had a MySpace account I hid from my mother by using special characters to spell the names and an anime profile picture. My profile song was definitely by Paramore. In 7th grade, my aunt told my mom I had a Facebook account and I wasn't allowed to use it again for a year. My mom thought social media was exclusively for predators. In 8th grade, my friends started using Twitter to talk to each other and follow artists they like. And in 10th grade, I found Instagram, an app for hipsters to put filters on pictures of food and bikes. Well, that was 10 years ago, and now Instagram is a marketing tool and also a lie in a way for me to feel bad about myself. Twitter is where our president throws tantrums. Facebook is where guys I don't know ask me to step on them or meet them for drinks. MySpace is a joke and mostly just used for bands, and people still playing Neopets are probably my age and just desperately clinging to nostalgia. Performing for the internet, being conscious of how I present myself on the web, and opening myself up for judgment and criticism from basically anyone has been integral to my experience growing up a very online person. I live and breathe memes, I default to Instagram when I open my app drawer, and I reflexively type Facebook into the search bar every time I open a new tab. Basically, I have become increasingly aware of how addicted I am to social media, and it's time I do something about it. So, for the next month, I'm not going to use social media at all. I've made my "I'm leaving even though nobody cares" post. I set all my social media apps' name labels to do not open. I turned off their notifications, and I'm ready for a month off from performing for the internet. Side note, if you're wondering why I didn't uninstall the apps, it's literally just because I don't want to have to try and remember the login information for all my accounts, because it's not gonna happen. But if I cheat, I'll mention it in the video. I'm very serious about holding myself accountable for my resolutions. And if you're wondering why I didn't take this all the way and just get a flip phone for the month, it's because I need GPS capability, and I live in a city, and I'm a lady, okay? It's just not safe. But the idea of having a flip phone does strongly appeal to my inner minimalist, until I look up the new Motorola Razr and find out that it's actually a touchscreen flip phone that costs $1,500. Gotta love capitalism. I have some goals for the month off. First, I want to redirect the time I would normally spend scrolling through pictures and reading strangers' comments into creative efforts. There are YouTube videos, songs, and other artistic endeavors that I want to devote time to, and I think that removing this distraction will open up the time and space to work on them. I want to take this time where I need my phone less often as an opportunity to be more intentional and present. I put my phone away when I'm hanging out with friends, but at home I don't follow that same protocol, and I'm interested to see if this will positively affect my relationship. I want to focus in on less online-based intake of information, so less online videos and more actual TV shows, movies, books, and podcasts not made by YouTubers. The strongest benefit that I am expecting from this experience is becoming progressively less stressed. It's not that social media stresses me out, it's that I default to it as a distraction when I'm feeling stressed, and without this crutch, I'm hoping I'll be more productive, which in turn will lead to less stress. There are a few other changes I'm making this month that I may mention throughout this video. I'm hoping to work out 3 days a week, go back to a regular sleep schedule, and stick to my vegan diet more strictly. Over the course of 2019, my health suffered pretty strongly due to anxiety and depression. My body became pretty weak from not eating enough and no physical activity, and I had to wear wrist braces, and my wrists still hurt pretty much all the time, regardless of whether or not I wear the brace. In the last quarter of 2019, I fell off the veganism wagon and I gained like 10 to 15 pounds. So in addition to quitting social media for my mental health, I'm hoping to make the changes I just mentioned for my physical health, and I look forward to seeing how I feel after the first month. Lastly, I'm not going to buy any non-essential items this month. Social media ads definitely get to me sometimes, and I really enjoy fashion, so some time off from shopping is necessary. I think it's something that a lot of previously poor kids struggle with when they get their first full-time job with a real salary, and I need to get a handle on it. Let's dive in. On the first day of the new year, I noticed myself feeling that urge to go online when I woke up. I watched a video from someone I support on Patreon instead, and then after realizing I didn't have a mindless distraction to fall back on, I grabbed my iPad and I worked on the script for this video for a while. Later in the day, I caught myself opening Facebook without even thinking while I sat down in the toilet, and I closed it once I realized what I was doing. I often spend more time in the bathroom than I need to because I get distracted by something on my phone, so maybe this will help. In the mornings, I often scroll through Instagram or Facebook before I get out of bed. And on the morning of day 2, I felt that same compulsion, but instead I watched YouTube videos on cooking in tiny houses for an hour. While it was still a time waster of sorts, I'm interested in interior design and cooking as hobbies, so it at least felt like I was absorbing something useful.
Okay, sorry for how I look because I just woke up, but I deadass had a dream where I looked at Instagram on my phone and then had to check myself and get out of it. I'm dreaming about getting on social media.
On day 3, I had a pretty easy time avoiding social media, but on day 4, I reflexively opened Instagram, and I got sucked in for a few minutes by Best Dressed First IGTV video. Sometime last year, I set an alert for when 5 minutes have been spent on Instagram for the day, so when that popped up, I checked myself and I closed the app. Later in the day, I noticed that I got news on my phone about a comic causing a stir, but the actual panel had been posted to Twitter, so I hesitated to look at it. It made me aware of how much of our news reporting is just about people doing shit on the internet. Yet another instance of people arguing in threads that I have no actual reason to read. Day 5 was my last day of winter break, and I spent it relaxing without my phone, playing video games, and hanging out with my fiance. Day 6 was my first day back at work. I was looking forward to seeing how different my productivity would be without the urge to check social media at the back of my mind. I was really pleased with how much I got done in the morning, but the second I checked my messages from friends, my productivity tanked. I had to ignore that too until I got home for the day in order to get anything done. In other news, that day was the first time I went to the gym in 2020. Day 7 at work was largely spent talking to the IT department because I was having trouble with my computer. At home, I reflexively got on Instagram and I had to kick myself off of it. My phone has a shelf at the top of its app drawer where it puts my most frequently used applications, and despite my trying to avoid it, Instagram was still the number 2 app, which was making it hard for me to avoid. So let's take a look at how I did on week 1. Did I avoid social media? Kind of. I certainly didn't spend any more than 5 minutes on it on any given day, and that's a huge improvement. I mean, before I started this challenge, I was certainly spending at least 2 hours on social media every day, and that's just nuts. Did I work out 3 days a week? No, I went once, but that's better than nothing, so... Did I go back to a regular sleep schedule? Well, I started readjusting back to normal after winter break, but I was still staying up a bit later than I wanted to be. Since I have a full-time job, it's hard for me to go to bed at 10 p.m. on weekdays, even though I know I should, because I have maybe 2 to 3 hours to do anything personal in the evenings, which makes me want to stay up later just to do those things. Gotta love capitalism's theft of personal time and autonomy. Did I go back to veganism? Actually, yes, with the exception of getting cheesy tortellini for lunch at work on the 7th. What I ate was plant-based, and I was proud of that. My workplace lunch options don't really offer much for vegan diets, and I wasn't quite equipped to start packing my lunches yet.
So week 1 is over, and I definitely spent less time on social media, but I think every day this week I still went on it by accident, just by reflex. And I marginally may have gotten more stuff done, but I think I'm still having some executive dysfunction problems just from other changes that I'm making in my life that I'm still getting used to. So far, not as good as I had hoped, but there's still 3 weeks left, so I'm hoping that more changes will be made for the better.
On days 8 and 9, I worked from home because we had a house inspector come by, and I was editing some videos for work and needed a quiet environment for recording audio. Being alone at home definitely created more opportunities for distraction between my cats and a house full of fun stuff to do, but I was unhappy with how week 1 had gone, and I was determined to do better during the second week of this experiment. So I largely was able to avoid social media. I did go on Twitter briefly on the 8th because I heard about the majority of the College Humor staff getting laid off, and on the 9th I looked at a couple Instagram stories in the morning. But I spent the rest of the day getting work done and doing chores. The evening of the 8th I had a mini mental health crisis, yay for CPTSD, so I was really proud of myself for picking myself up and attacking my day on the 9th. On day 10, I had a pretty normal day at work, and then an evening spent hanging out with my fiance. On day 11, we spent the day together hanging out, binge watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and beating Pokemon Shield. The next day, our friend Alex came over and we made breakfast together before I spent my afternoon doing various tasks for work, my home, and YouTube. The entire weekend, I found it pretty easy to avoid social media as I was barely using my phone at all. Instead, choosing to fully involve myself in the present moment and invest myself fully in the conversations I was having. Day 13 was a bad one. I was in a lot of pain and I didn't want to move around much. But despite having a lot of nothing to do, I didn't go on social media. I watched some YouTube videos, I fell down a true crime wormhole, and then I was moderately productive in the evening. On day 14, I got significantly more done in my first half of the day than I would have without this social media ban. During the second half of the day, I was trying to enjoy a very cute and charming computer game called Speed Dating for Ghosts, but I noticed that I was impatiently trying to move through the game as fast as possible, as if completing that playthrough was a task and not something I was doing to enjoy myself. For the rest of that evening, I found myself doing that over and over again, but I was able to remind myself to allow myself that space to relax and enjoy time dedicated to non-productive things, like watching anime with my cats and eating Cheetos with a fork. So to summarize week 2, I had a much easier time avoiding social media. From day 10 onward, I basically didn't feel the pull at all, and the few times I was on social media were because of news links. I was really happy to see that Nikki Tutorials came out as trans, seeing that representation was really cool. I didn't go to the gym, that part just failed. And I guess I'm okay with that because I didn't feel good for a lot of this week. My sleep schedule started becoming a bit more regular, with my wake-up time being between 6:45 and 7:45 every day. I managed to have meals from my house every day this week, and most of them were plant-based. And most importantly to me, I was starting to notice my brain cling less to the desire for distraction, and having an easier time focusing on the present, which was in turn having a positive effect on my relationship. That weekend where we just hung out all day Friday and Saturday was really awesome, and I had kind of missed that whole forget the outside world, it's just us in our house attitude. As Animal Collective would say, and my favorite song by them, Bluish, let's just stay in, no one's here in our apartment, babe. This week I noticed that YouTube also kind of feels like social media to me, even though I am mostly watching videos of people with many more subscribers than me, and I myself have a small and lovely subscriber base. I'm still essentially watching people's social media posts, but they're just in video form, and this week I apparently spent about an hour and a half a day on YouTube, so there's still some distraction time I could cut down on. That being said, I rarely go on Netflix or other streaming sites unless there's a specific show I want to finish, so I could also count that hour and a half as a perfectly reasonable amount of screen entertainment time. I don't know, I usually try to watch things on YouTube that will teach me something or at least be thought-provoking, and with that rule in place, I don't usually feel like my time spent watching YouTube videos is wasted time. If you have any thoughts on YouTube as social media, let's talk about it in the comments. Definitely tried to take a shower before I filmed this, and my water is only cold. Here's my best attempt at making myself look clean when I'm dirty. Day 15 was a sick day, and I spent most of it resting and spending time with my partner. In the evening, I helped him buy a suit, and we went to see Weathering with You in theaters. At no point that day did I feel the impulse to go on social media. Also, if you're an anime fan, you should definitely see Weathering with You. It's great. The morning of day 16 though, I was really sad and I said fuck this video for a minute and I went on Instagram and I instantly fell down a comparison rabbit hole. But I stopped after about 5 minutes. On days 17 through 20, I was on a mini vacation of sorts in my own house since I had a long weekend away from work. During times like this when I don't have any digital obligations, I tend to leave my phone somewhere for hours or just let it die. And that was the case this time as well. We had friends over Friday night. On Saturday and Sunday, we played video games, Tetris Effect, Jak and Daxter, Okami HD, the Power Rangers fighting game, and Outer Worlds. We watched movies, Moon and Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, and anime, Nana. And I even read a book. I had been about halfway through Slaughterhouse-5 for the past 6 months, and I decided to just finish it over the weekend. I really enjoyed taking that time off for myself just to read with no other obligations. On Monday, our extra day off, we got up early and we had the house cleaned by 11 a.m. And I spent the rest of the day updating my budget and my bullet journal and working on some ideas for an artwork contest that I wanted to enter. Often at the end of a weekend or a few days off, I find myself feeling dissatisfied because I didn't actually relax or get anything done. But the thing that made that weekend so awesome and refreshing for me was being present for what was going on, and I can't imagine it having gone over as well had I been glued to my phone checking in on the lives of other people. Days 21 and 22 were work days, so I spent the first half of those days focused in on stuff for my job, and the second half working on creative projects and enjoying the company of my fiance. To summarize week 3, I didn't feel any impulses to go on social media this week. It seemed like the iron grip of my social media addiction had really loosened its hold on me. The only times I wanted to open anything were to check in on specific Instagram accounts, and never to scroll due to boredom. In general, I was finding myself feeling bored a lot less often, and I was much quicker to pick up the chosen instrument of any of my favorite hobbies instead of just staring at a wall and feeling like I didn't deserve to enjoy myself. I'm not saying that this part is directly linked to social media, but I do think that the absence of comparison was making my depression a lot more manageable. I also made visual art that I actually like for once. I was too busy to go to the gym during lunch hour at work, but I did exercise at home. My sleep schedule was pretty regulated, and aside from a deliberate choice to order a deep dish pizza, my meals were vegan and relatively healthy. For the record, I regretted that pizza. Week 4, the last week, but actually 10 days of January. On day 23, I went to work. I had a normal day with no social media urges. On day 24, I drove to visit friends, and I spent the road trip chatting with the driver with my phone lost in the car. On day 25, we were visiting friends, and I barely knew where my phone was. I'm pretty sure it died, and I had a delicious charcuterie board with my friends, and very much enjoyed not being distracted by my phone at all. It was really nice to just enjoy conversation the entire weekend. On day 26, we got home from visiting friends, and again, the whole day I ignored social media completely. On day 27, I did get distracted by Instagram when I was distressed. I think it was just like a moment of weakness where I was feeling really bad and I just wanted something to take my mind off of it, so I did open Instagram for a little bit. On day 28, I was out sick from work, so I did spend most of the day sleeping, but I set up my bullet journal for February and I did not go on social media. On the 29th, I went to work even though I was sick. I went to the gym, and I did not go on social media. On the 30th, I had an amazing day at work, and I did not go on social media. On the 31st, it was a normal day. I was pretty focused at work, and then it was the weekend, so I just watched BoJack Horseman. The few times I opened social media this week, I felt slightly repulsed and compelled to close it immediately. I had a great time visiting friends and ignoring my phone that entire weekend, and generally, I felt that I used my time well for personal projects and enjoyment instead of wasting it scrolling and feeling empty inside. I realized that those who do not have a hobby or two may have a much harder time quitting social media because you really do need something to do to fill in the gaps. If you're one of those people that don't feel like you have an artistic bone in your body, then maybe pick up a book or learn a new recipe or dive into a video game. I know that for creative people it's a lot easier to pick up a hobby than for non-creative people, but there are definitely still things you can do either way. January is over. I made it through a whole month. Let's see how things turned out. Did I accomplish the goals that I laid out for myself? At the halfway point of this experiment, I did not feel that I had successfully made the switch from being too online to enjoying more conventional media. I had spent some time animating new intro ideas and watching Danny Phantom and taking notes for a review, which was something that I had been putting off for months, so creatively, I felt that I was making steps forward. The other goals that I had mentioned were progressing relatively well. However, by the end of the month, I felt that I had definitely spent much more time on creative work than I would have previously, and I was noticing a certain glow of satisfaction in relation to personal productivity. I exercised a non-zero amount, which is more than I had previously. The meals I made for myself were vegan, and I got control over my sleep schedule. Did I work on music this month? During the first half of the month, I hadn't worked on any music, and by the end of the month, I had practiced some songs and decided on a few I wanted to cover on this channel, but I hadn't made much progress with songwriting. That's okay, I mean, I can't reach 100 in every category, that's just not realistically what I expected from this. Did I work on YouTube videos this month? During the first half of the month, I worked on scripts for a cartoon review and for this video, so I was definitely working on my channel more than I had been in the last few months. At the end of the month, I was actually really satisfied at the amount of work I had put into YouTube over the last 31 days. This video was filmed and ready to edit, and my Danny Phantom review is coming along nicely, and I'm planning to put it out in March. Was I more present when hanging out out at home with my partner. I definitely found this to be the case when hanging out with not only my partner, but with my friends as well. Without my phone around during these interactions, I was much more invested in every conversation, and I felt like I was a better listener and conversationalist even at home when I'm usually hella distracted. I felt that my relationships were strengthened and my mental health actually got better from opening up to friends and being truly present for whatever was happening. I will say though, I miss the memes. In conclusion, if you've ever felt a little too attached to your phone, or an app, or a website, I strongly recommend you giving this a shot. Maybe for 1 or 2 weeks if a month seems too intimidating to you. Looking up from the screen and taking in what was around me helped my depression a lot. It helped me find things to appreciate for my gratitude journal, and overall it made me feel a lot better about myself because there was less opportunity for comparison and competition inside my own head. I think I can enter the world of social media again now with a much healthier mindset about it. So with that being said, I'm really excited to rejoin the YouTube sphere and make content for you all that I love and believe in. If you're still here, thanks so much for sticking around. If this was your first time here, welcome to my channel. My name is Kiki, I'm 24, I'm non-binary, and I love writing songs, making videos, playing games, analyzing media, vegan cooking, fashion, and learning how to be a better person. If you have any questions about this experience or otherwise, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Be safe, stay hydrated, and check in on your friends. By the way, I definitely went digging through MySpace for about 20 minutes searching for the profile of an old friend who I knew I was connected to, and that's how I found my 2006 MySpace profile. 2006!